I'm Kimbra. I'm here in Los Angeles, and I am with Kellie in Rock Springs, Wyoming. So, Kellie, what is your rant today?
Well, I have lots of rants, but my rant today is, I was at the grocery store the other day, and you pick the shortest line, and now with the COVID virus, everybody's social distancing, so I found the shortest line, and there was a lady in front of me, but she didn't have anything, so I thought, well, she's either buying stamps or cigarettes or something that you have to ask the cashier for. So, it's her turn, and then all of a sudden, this guy comes up with a full grocery cart full of groceries and cuts right in front of me because he says, "I'm with her."
What?
So that really irritates me because she was basically holding the place in line while he finished the shopping, and I just think that's rude. It's like I've seen people in a parking lot, somebody standing in a parking space, like they're not in a car and they're just standing there like holding the space for the person that's driving. I
Um,
don't know, that's my rant. I just think it's rude. I don't think people should do that. So
Friends do that for me. I
what do
must.
you think?
I've had friends do that for me for the parking, though. I have because in Los Angeles, it's so
Kimbra.
hard. Well, in Los Angeles, you
Because,
wouldn't.
well, yeah, I guess I kind of get it in LA.
My one friend lives on the street where you can never find parking, and so when I call ahead, he goes, "If there's nothing, I'm going to stand." No, what he does, no, what he does is he puts his car in the spot where I would park, and then I park in his spot. So I guess I don't know if that's the same thing, but
Yeah, that's not cheating. That's okay. It's just, I don't know. It just irritates me in the grocery store because it's misleading. You're picking the shortest line. You're in a hurry too. All of our time's valuable. And so I would have maybe gotten in a different line if I knew they had this whole grocery cart full to the top of groceries. So I just, stand there and wait while they check all this stuff out, not knowing that it was going to take that long. So anyway, that's my rant.
well, I get a little vicious when when it says 12 items or less, and then
Yeah.
someone comes up with like 25, and I just want
Yeah.
to say so badly, that's over 12, but I never do.
Are we being Karens? Because I literally sit there and count. I count how many items they have. And I'm
Oh,
like, but I do the same thing. I count mine. I will not get in that line if I have one more than the number.
because
Because you're not supposed to.
we live by the rules.
We do. So yeah, I felt a little bit like a Karen doing that, but still,
That's true.
that's the rule. That's why they have rules, right? So, so anyway, we decided today to talk about marrying for money. You and
Right.
I were talking about it the other day how we've both had many opportunities to marry very
Many, too
wealthy
many.
men. Many, many, many. Well, especially living in LA, it's there's so many very wealthy men, and you meet them because you're mingling and socializing with them, and we've had those chances, but never really. At least I want to hear what your thoughts are on it. I never really thought of marrying for money.
What
Um,
I
how would you feel about that?
Well, yes, as you mentioned, I have had my opportunities. Would I marry for money? Is it wrong? I personally could never do it, but I was thinking about it this morning because I thought we might be talking about this, and I don't think it's wrong as long as both parties are aware of what's going on. I thought about this. I thought about it in an ethical way. Is it
Uh-huh.
wrong? And I feel like if, like, for instance, usually if you look it up, or actually if you look up gold digger, I looked it up, and it says
There you go.
it's a typical exchange of money for love, and it usually happens from the woman being the gold digger, but not always. But so I was thinking about that. Is that ethically wrong? And I thought about it, and I thought, like I said, if both parties kind of know what they're getting, then I don't think it's wrong. But I personally can't do it. I have to love the person. I don't care how much money they have. If I don't, I mean, maybe Rupert Murdoch. No, I'm kidding. But
Isn't he with Jerry Hall now? Isn't she
yeah,
with him?
yeah. And I was thinking about
Uh,
that too. I was thinking about like all the people that you think, did they marry for money? And actually, I was thinking about it, and I thought the number one person that I thought might have married for money. And I don't hold any judgment, like I said, because I've been in some situations where, someone, I dated someone because position seemed attractive, and I ended up really caring for the person. I mean, I got to admit, that happened to me one time but it was their whole package. It was their position at their job, the kind of life they led, the people they hung out with. And I was really young, so that I got caught up in the whole world,
Yeah.
but I was thinking about the number one person that I thought might be considered a gold digger or marrying for money. And that's the woman that married Harvey Weinstein, her name's Georgina Rose Chapman, and I'm sorry, she's beautiful. She's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
How could you, I mean, that guy's been married. He was married, I think, at least one or two times before. And I don't know. I don't want to pass judgment, but I feel like, marrying Harvey Weinstein, definitely, there's a trade-off.
Yeah, that makes me think. And when we were talking about this the other day, I was talking about when I used to work at, I don't know that I have a type. I like exciting guys. I like thinkers. I'm attracted to guys that are successful, but I've dated some real losers too, and I really liked them.
Sure.
The heart, soft-hearted guys, a lot of it is how they treat me. But I remember when I was working at William Morris Agency, it was like at the time, it was in the 80s, and it was the world's largest talent agency in Hollywood. So there's, celebrities everywhere. And the agents, I had a crush on one, and I dated one. And I really, the one I dated, I didn't know the other one very well. I just got a crush on him. He was, cute-ish, but not my typical kind of rock star type. But the one that I dated, I really was fond of him. I really liked him, and I enjoyed his company. And in fact, I talked to him recently. I talked to him not too long ago just to connect and say, hey, what's going on? And we tried to get together for lunch, but it didn't happen. But I liked him, and I don't think I would have like picked him out of a crowd anywhere, but I think in that social environment, or not the social environment, is a work environment, but seeing him at work and talking to him and seeing how he handled himself, making things happen and deals. And I actually worked for him a little bit. I did some things on the side, like I would read scripts for him and give him a synopsis. And I liked that interaction, and it just gave me a lot of respect for him. My ex-husband too. Now, my ex-husband was, at the time, in my opinion, gorgeous. But I also was attracted to him that he was a businessman, and he was pretty smart and made things happen. And
That's true.
but I never would have married him just for money. I mean,
That's
I
true.
have a confession to make though, Kimbra. I
What?
would marry someone for money. And
You
don't
would?
be mad at me. It's kind of one of your crushes,
Who?
Elon.
Oh, I'll fight to the death. No,
No, yeah. Well, I would let you have him if
Oh.
he wanted to have you more. Then I'd go for Keanu, your other crush.
I know. Oh, we got the two talk too. That's a problem with you and I. We have similar taste in men.
Yeah. Well, Keanu, I think is I'm more attracted to him. But Elon Musk, like you say, you listen to him talk, and it is a turn on. So with that said, marrying someone for money, sometimes those men that have a lot of money are successful because they're smart too, because they're really good at business. So, and sometimes it's because they're very charming.
Well,
Harvey Weinstein, maybe he's a charming man. He seems piggish to me, but maybe he's a charmer.
I know. I feel bad for saying that about Georgina. I believe that's how you pronounce her name, because it reminded me, we talked about this the other day briefly, but I had a similar situation when I was really young, and I went to the American film market one year, and I was just starting out in the acting business, and one of my friends from Italy was there, and he said, I want you to come to this dinner party tonight that we're having. It was like, I think, the opening night of the American film market, and they would always have these parties. So I went, and he said, he introduced me to everyone at the party, and this is the owner of the house. His name's Georges Alain Wheel. He's from Switzerland. And he was about 5'4", and I'm about 5'8", and he was very a robust figure. So,
Okay.
and I remember I was thinking, okay, nice to meet you, but he just poured on the charm, and he introduced me to everybody, and told all these tales of, back home in Switzerland, all these, things that he's done. He was very successful theater owner. He owned a chain of theaters and all of his celebrity friends. And I remember I got really caught up in his whole persona, and he lived in this beautiful house on Mulholland Drive overlooking the whole valley, and I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking, wow, this guy is so continental. He's so, successful. And he's one of those guys like probably Harvey Weinstein probably is, where if he focuses his charm on you, you get like you feel like the spotlight, and I was super, I don't know, I was probably like 23, I think. And so the spotlight was on me and I was just like, oh, I'm liking this. I feel like a princess.
Yeah, getting all that attention.
Yeah, and so I got caught up in the whole lifestyle of it, and then we started. He called me, I believe, like a few days later. He got my number through my friend, and I was thinking, oh, I don't know, because he was a lot older too. He was like, oh gosh, maybe 17 years older than me, and at that time the age gap seemed so big, and anyway, he kept calling me, and he had these dinner parties at these expensive restaurants on Sunset and he invite all these people, he'd invite these famous people. And I really just got caught up in the whole lifestyle of it. And he seemed so sophisticated. That was the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd never been around somebody so cultured. And I just was like, I don't know. I just felt I got sucked into the whole thing. So, but people that were around him, I could tell they didn't think that I cared about him at all. And every time he would introduce me to friends, they would always have this look on their face like, oh, okay,
Thought you were the gold digger.
But I was the gold digger. Anyway, we dated for about 6 months, and then things happened, and we ended up breaking up. A year later, I ran into somebody, the next American Film Market. I was out having dinner somewhere, and I ran into that same friend, and I said, whatever happened to George Alain? And he said, oh, you didn't hear? He passed away. One of his lungs collapsed, and they flew him back to Switzerland, And I remember I got tears in my eyes, and my friend was like, you really did care for him. He was so shocked, but I really did. It was the older man thing too. I never dated an older man. I just got, sucked into that whole lifestyle. So I can't pass judgment too much on like Georgina, but I guess I find Harvey Weinstein he's a genius. I love all of his movies artistically, but I just find him, like you said, so oafish. I don't know what the right.
Ish and abrasive, I think. And I've never sat down and talked to him one-on-one, so I don't know how charming he could be, but it sounds like he wasn't working on the charm, and he's certainly not my type. So I don't know. But yeah, that reminds me of a couple stories. When I was young in my 20s, I was dating this guy in Hollywood, and he's like, my birthday was coming up, so he said he'd take me wherever I wanted to go for my birthday. He said, you pick out any place in town. I'll get a limo. I'll take you wherever you want. And I thought about it, and I went, Pizza Hut. And he would always bring that up later. He'd always say, you picked Pizza Hut. That's where you went. Because you know me, I'm like pizza freak. Yeah. So that's where I wanted to go. So that's where he took me.
And this girl's a cheap date,
Yeah. But I was always like that. I was never really out for the I wasn't out for the money or the status, or I was unimpressed with all that kind of stuff. I remember another guy I dated, his name was Bob, and he actually is partners with, I guess, from what I've seen on the internet, partners with Angelina Jolie in a jewelry line now. He owned a jewelry store on Rodeo Drive. Mm-hmm. And I really liked him. He's the sweetest guy. And apparently he has a lot of money. I don't know how much. Those are things I never really thought about, how much money a guy had. But I liked hanging out with him. We always went to fun events. He was always a gentleman. He would drive all the way from Beverly Hills to pick me up in the Valley to take me to dinner in Hollywood, like in Beverly. Like he never told me to meet him somewhere or anything like that. Perfect gentleman, always. And we did fun, exciting things. I remember he took me one time to Motley Crue was shooting a music video, and we went on the set there and sat down and talked with Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear, and just always fun stuff, always top of the line fun. And I liked that part of dating him, but we oftentimes, just went to dinner alone and sat and talked, and he had a really big heart, a really good guy. And the funny thing is, I never took him seriously because we didn't really get deep in our relationship. It just really wasn't that deep. And I remember at one point, we weren't dating anymore. We had both gone our own ways. And he said, I was so in love with you. And I was shocked. I was like, you were? I was like, you never acted like it. He goes, oh, I was so in love with you. I did. And for years, I went to his parents' house for the holidays, and we stayed friends for a very long time. And then just, kind of lost touch. But I wonder if people thought, why is she hanging out with him? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they didn't because he was a cute guy. But I really never cared about his money at all. I just never was into it.
Sounds like he had a lot on the ball too, and still does. If he's
Yeah.
doing.
He just had a really good heart. He was a real nice guy. Just, he was always there for his friends, always looking out for other people. Just a caring good guy. And I remember me telling him I wanted to be an actress, and he was like, oh, don't do that. He goes, you can make so much more money in business. And of course I've learned, yeah, you're right. At least for me. But yeah, he was just a good guy, and I was really attracted to his kindness, I think, more than anything, his heart.
That's good.
So,
No, you've always been that way though. You've always had this wide variety of guys like myself, like you
yeah.
said the other day, you're an equal opportunity lover. Or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I never had a specific type. The heart, I always went for the soft guys. I remember one time I was dating this guy and he was at work, and he was like, I went outside to have a cigarette break, which I hated that he smoked. He said, and I saw this bird, and there were these ants, and the bird couldn't fly away, and the ants were going to get him. And he goes, babe, I don't know what to do. Can you please help? Can you please help? The ants are going to eat the bird. And I was just like, oh my God, I love this guy so much because he's worried about this bird.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but getting back to, the gold digger, marrying for money. Yeah, I know. I don't think either one of us could have ever done it except, if you personally really care about the guy,
Yeah.
Like I can't even kiss him.
Well,
I can't kiss him if I'm not attracted.
yeah, me either. I have to be attracted to them. Which I guess brings us around to maybe we're kind of defending those women that we sometimes look at as thinking that they're gold diggers. They have to find something. Another one that I was always curious about is Stephanie Seymour. She married that Peter Brandt, and he's, I think, a billionaire. And
Right.
she was like the most beautiful supermodel. She was with Axl Rose for years, which, that had to be much different than being married to Peter Brandt. But maybe after him, she went after, instead of going after the sexy rock star, she went after the stable billionaire.
Well, I can top that one. What about Jerry Hall with Rupert Murdoch?
Yeah, that's a weird one after Mick Jagger. Maybe I have a theory about those rock stars because you and I have both dated rock stars. For me, I could never get seriously involved with any of them because I just find that lifestyle so trashy. You had a really solid, good one. So
I did, and he wasn't into drugs, which was good,
yeah, the drugs and the alcohol and the girls and the just partying all the time just was such a superficial lifestyle to me. But anyway, I have a theory that women that really get involved with those guys break them. I feel like they come out really damaged. Look at Heather Locklear now. She's so broken, and she was with Tommy Lee and then Richie Sambora. Both of them, I believe, hurt her and cheated on her. And she seems so broken now that I feel so bad for her. Pamela Anderson seems like she came out of it a little stronger, but still, I think she's not unscathed.
Yeah, and she's a lot more intellectual than I thought. I mean, she's more of a cerebral.
She's an activist.
Yeah. I mean, Heather Locklear is real smart too, but I believe that, yeah, like you said, she's an activist, and she's focused on a lot of political things lately. She's broadening her horizons.
Yeah.
I was reading something. She was with, she's been with a lot of interesting people lately, and international stuff.
Vivienne Westwood and she are trying to get Julian Assange released. She's big on animal rights.
I know she's a big PETA person, huh?
She even went to Donald Trump. She wrote him a letter and asked him if he would consider releasing Julian Assange, and she's appealed to the Australian PM because he's an Australian citizen, and she is that just shows that she's much more than the superficial Hollywood lifestyle. But
Right.
I was heartbroken to hear, to see in the news and on the internet about Heather Locklear being so damaged, and it just seems broken. And I think dating those guys that just don't treat you right does something to your esteem and breaks you.
And then on top of that, I know she's had a lot of substance abuse problems, because I follow her on Instagram, which could be,
well, that's what I mean. That's, you turn to
that's her way of coping with
Yeah.
everything. And I feel badly for her for that. That's like the one thing that you and I have never really succumbed to alcohol or drug abuse.
No, no.
I do. I want to be in control. I can always tell people because I want to be. It's not really any big moral or ethical thing like that. To be honest with you, for me, it's always just been about I want to be in control. I never like that feeling of like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? I want to.
I used to love to drink. I love to go out and party and get drunk and have fun with my friends. Never did drugs, but yeah, I used to like to drink, but I never had a problem with it. And I think for some people, it is in the genes maybe, or it's just something in their psyche that they can't control. It gets a hold of them.
I'm not sure because I have a couple friends that are in AA and they tell me things, but I'm not an expert on it. But my one friend, she always calls me a normie because when we go, that's what they call you in AA, when you can drink normally,
Uh-huh.
And I always ask, like, do you mind if I have a glass of wine? And she's like, no, I love it when you drink your wine. Like, they get a kick out of it. Like, she's a normie,
She can actually drink.
But yeah, I know for a long time they were thinking it's in the genes, but now I think there's a new thought process about, I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. So
Yeah, I'm not much of an expert on it either. I can't understand it.
yeah.
That reminds me of another story. A guy that I dated in my late 20s, whatever, who was very famous. And I bet if I ever ran into him and I mentioned it, he wouldn't remember who I am because he was always drunk to the max, always super drunk. He had a bottle of Absolute by his bed, and either I had to drive or one of his friends had to drive everywhere we went. He could never drive. He could barely speak. He was a wreck, but I guess he's in recovery or whatever. He doesn't do alcohol, and he did a lot of drugs too. But he is in recovery, I guess, or I don't know if he goes to AA or what, but he gave up alcohol and he seems like very normal. He married a beautiful girl, model, and has kids from what I've been told. I guess he's living a happy, normal life, but he was such a mess. In fact, the funny story was he was just a mess. I would never have given him the time of day if I didn't know who he was. And I actually didn't know who he was, but somebody introduced us. It was Duff from Guns N' Roses. And he was drunk and he just, he was like that dirty, messy looking rocker. And I was introduced to him and they said, Kelly, this is Duff from Guns N' Roses. And so I wouldn't say it was a gold digger moment, but it was a fascinated moment. Like, that band Guns N' Roses, I really like those songs. I like that music. Okay, I'll talk to you for a little bit. And so I talked to him just because I was intrigued. And he turned out to be the sweetest, nicest gentleman, except for being a drunk. But I did like him. I genuinely liked him. It's just his lifestyle was such a. And then it was right when they were working on Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and so he would be in the studio, and when he would finish or whatever, we'd go out and go to parties and stuff. But then they went on tour, so I don't know. I probably would have given him more of a try, but he was just such a mess. It would never.
That band partied hard. I know I
Yeah.
told you before, but I did a show once with Paul Rogers when he did a tribute to Muddy Waters, and Slash was the guitar player, at that show, and it was.
Wait, tell me about that show. What was that?
It was a tribute to Muddy Waters. Paul Rogers had done an album a tribute to Muddy Waters, and
what band was Paul Rogers in? I know I met him.
Bad Company. He was in
okay. Okay, I can't remember.
Yeah. So anyway, this was at the Troubadour, and Slash was the guitar player. So it was after the show, and I didn't really get a chance to talk to him before the show or anything. And I'd invited some friends, and some of the people that I invited, we went backstage, which is that little skinny little area, above the stage. And one of my friends said, can we take a picture with Slash? So I said, sure. So we walk over there, and I asked him, he was sitting on the couch, and I said, can I take a picture with you and my friends? And he just looked at me for like, God, it seemed like forever. And I thought to myself, oh gosh, I guess he doesn't want to take a picture. I felt like, like no picture, So,
yeah.
And then I was just about to walk away, and he stands up to take a picture with us, and we got a picture. And then he falls over. He completely falls over. I was like, oh, okay. It was just he was super drunk. Like, it probably took him a minute to even like register what I was saying, And I was
Oh, that's
like, oh
hysterical.
my gosh, that is so funny. And but that show, he was such an amazing guitar player, and I'm sure he's cleaned it up a lot since then. I
Yeah,
think
they'd have to, or they were going to die, I think, eventually. But did he play drunk, or was that afterwards?
that was afterwards. So I don't know if he was
Oh,
drunk when he was playing, but from what I
probably.
remember, he did a good job. So if he was drunk, he did a good job. So, and it was I'll never forget that because I was so young and I was just like, oh gosh, because everybody knew who Slash was. So I was thinking, I've offended him. He doesn't want to take, get over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. And then he stands up and falls over. That's hysterical.
You have one picture. One day we'll put it on and I'll show you. So we got the
Oh,
picture.
I'd love to see it.
He falls over.
That's funny. That's funny.
But yeah. So what getting back to the original topic, I'd say, I'm not going to try to judge anybody for what they do. I just personally couldn't do it myself. It just, like I was thinking about this too, like, men do it too, like with Halle
Yeah.
Berry. She was with that guy, the model, Gabrielle, I think his name is Gabrielle Aubrey. And, Gabrielle Aubrey, that's his name.
Yeah.
And I just think to myself,
Yeah, but Halle Berry's beautiful. So even if she was
beautiful, but
poor,
for sure.
he might have.
But the guy, I was reading that he's asking for like 16,000 a month for support, like, after they broke up,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, gosh, why does he need that much money? And she's like trying to fight it, like, get a job. And
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
like, I just lose respect for that, but I
Yeah.
think
Trying to
guys can do it too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah. Again, yeah, I don't feel that we should judge people either. Back before women really were in the workplace, women went for the most successful man they could get. It was nothing about looks. It was about security.
Sure.
And men got the most beautiful woman they could get. So it was always a very successful man with a very beautiful woman. And that's the way it was. And it was considered acceptable
Sure.
in society.
Yeah, because marriage was, originally started as a business contract way back in the day, right? So it
Yeah.
evolved from families keeping land
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
to,
I think it's still, I think it still is that. That's probably why, I haven't married again. Always wanted to marry for love. And, I have to admit, when I was younger, I wasn't marriage material. I was a handful. My one boyfriend said, "You were two handsful." I just wasn't ready. I was very immature and wasn't ready to settle down. That's why
but
my marriage.
but who is? I mean, I always say, like,
Yeah.
you need a course in high school, like, not home ec, but like, marriage or whatever you're going to do,
Yeah. Well, marriage, children,
yeah.
maturity. Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, I just wasn't mature enough when I was younger. And then by the time I was more mature, the older you get, I think the harder it is to get married because you're set in your ways. You know what you want. You've been through a lot. You have your own damage. They bring theirs and you put it together and it's like, oh, never mind. This is just easier
oh,
to.
I know. Like, a couple years ago, I was dating somebody with children and I thought, this is great. I've got instant family, and then I didn't realize that, sometimes that's a whole other ball game because they've got their,
Yeah.
baggage from the first marriage, how they want to raise their kids, and they don't want you to tell them what to do. It's just like,
It doesn't have to be that way. I think the right man, I've had that situation a couple times. I've dated a couple guys with kids and the one guy, he allowed his ex to control him using his son and she just milked it. She got him to do anything. She'd say, well, I can't go bike riding with him if I don't have a bike too. So he'd buy her a bike and she just would milk him. And it was just, I lost a lot of respect for him watching that. And then the other one, this is another topic for another day, but he was a widower. The man's a widower, right? The woman's a widow. He was
right.
a widower. And I just think he felt so much guilt. He just wasn't ready, but he let the daughter and the whatever former wife, the gone wife, interfere in our relationship a lot. And I feel like he needed more time to grieve. So I just
Right. I remember you dated that guy.
remember him. Yeah.
I know, and it's hard. I feel like, I know this is kind of a stereotype, but I feel like it's kind of harder for the man to get over when the person dies. I always feel like women are more pliable. It's like we talk like we're doing right now. We talk with our girlfriends. We get it all out, and then we're okay. We're now. This is generalization, but then we're ready to move on. So a lot of times it's harder for men because I feel like when they hold things in and they don't get it out. So, whatever they were going through, they haven't resolved it,
Yeah, you're making me feel bad now because, I remember once we were watching a video of her, and actually his brother had died too. And they were both in the video. It was at somebody's wedding, and he sat there and cried, and I held him, and I always told him, I go, I don't mind you grieving for her. But where I took issue was that he never made, and I think actually he did it with her too. He never made me feel like I had found a place in his heart. I think he was just always had been disconnected. And I think that's why he felt guilty I don't think he ever treated her well. And I think he had a lot of guilt because he was trying to do the same things to me and I wasn't going to put up with it. I'm like, no. So it was more than, I broke up with him for more than just the grieving over his wife, his former wife. But I feel like he needed to put that to rest, put her in her place in his heart. And I would have been fine with it. I was willing. He had a daughter, and I said, I will put the mother and daughter's pictures in my house. I was fine with that if his daughter came over, and I had no issue with any of that. I wasn't trying to erase her from his life. I was just trying to carve out my own place in his heart, and it just didn't seem like there was a place there for me. So.
I know. Well, I'd never dated a guy before that had been divorced with kids, so I didn't not me. I'm always like, ooh, how fun! I look at the bright side, and then,
I don't even have to have them.
Yeah, I got instant kids, and it was just a whole, with kids nowadays, like, she would text him, if you really love me, you'd come pick me up right now, like manipulation.
Was this his daughter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
Just things like that, and it was a whole other ball game. But it's
relationships, I think when you're older and you've got all that extra baggage, are just difficult, and they're not for everyone. So I'm totally happy with my dog.
Happy in the single life.
Yeah. But many fond memories, of the guys that I did date, and shared some. I'm not one of those people that holds a grudge either. If I was with someone and they want to, like my ex-husband, we were married when I was really young, and I contacted him, I think another story, but when I got really sick in my late 30s, I contacted him and I wanted to, let him know how much he had meant to me at one point. And he's like, I thought you always hated me. I'm so glad. So we got to kind of mend, and we stayed in touch a little bit. And I feel like it was healing for him because he had thought I had always hated him, and I didn't feel that way. I always was grateful for him being there for me at a time when I really needed someone. But now he's remarried to a beautiful woman, and I'm really happy for him. I always wish the best for someone when I'm not with them anymore. If I cared about them at one point, I want them to be happy.
I totally agree. My second boyfriend, who was kind of with me when I was getting into acting and stuff like that, we had a very intense relationship, and after we broke up, this is back in the days when people wrote letters. I still got him actually. And every week he sent me a letter.
Aww.
Yeah, will you get back together with me? Will you marry me? I'll give you all my money. I mean, every letter, like he was so, it broke my heart too. It really broke, because this went on for 6 months. Every week he'd send me a letter. And anyway, finally he met somebody who's a pharmacist, and she was really pretty too, because I went to New York. That's where he lives. I went to New York afterwards for a vacation, and I called him and got together, and I saw his picture. I saw her picture, and I was like, oh, she's really pretty. I'm like, don't blow this one, and so, but she didn't want him to stay in touch with me as a friend because she just didn't, so but I was really happy for him, really, because she was pretty, she had a good job, and I thought, maybe he's a lot more he had anger management problems, let's just put it that way.
Maybe he'd learn his lesson.
I hope
calm down.
I hope so. But I'll always cherish those letters when I use them for like certain things, like, because nobody writes letters anymore. And I
text and email.
Yeah, or text, right?
Yeah.
I feel, let's get together.
Yeah. I have a lot of texts. Anyway,
but yeah, so I'm like you. I try to stay friends with my exes. I'm friends with all my exes except for one that doesn't want to have anything to do with me.
The last one I was talking about, the one that was the widower. I had to cut it off. He wouldn't accept. He was real manipulative, and he kept trying to get back with me. And when I'm done, I'm done. Once I figure things out and realize that this person's not in the mental state that they need to be for me, it's easy for me to walk away. And so it was just really easy for me to walk away. And I feel bad because I would love, we dated right out of high school also. So we had reconnected and we were older. And we're from the same town, and our families know each other. So I really would like to have stayed. I would rather we had been friends, and I helped him grieve for his wife and just be friends and go out here and there, and instead of him trying to turn it into something that it just wasn't going to be. But I hold no grudge towards him, but I did cut it off, and remember, I wouldn't talk to him for a long time. And he deleted me on Facebook, which is so childish. But then he a couple years later, he asked to be friends again. So I accepted his friendship, and he's never commented or said or done anything. So weird, whatever.
It's weird with social media too, with breaking up with people, because you're always wondering, are they like stalking you, and not saying anything.
You don't know if they're watching your page and seeing everything, and
because So when I broke up with the guy with the 2 kids, it was like the day after he deleted me on Facebook. Like the day after, it was like, okay,
Wow.
And then all of his friends, well, we didn't have that. A couple of our mutual friends, they deleted me too. I was like, geez, what did I do?
I
guess he told
They usually only do that when they're really hurt, when they're like, they don't want to see you in their feed anymore because they're hurt. It's a reminder.
And you always lose people in the divorce or the sever.
Yeah. The friends have to pick a side.
Yeah. Like when I was with Mark, we had a couple of really close friends, that we did things with, and they ended up going with him. And I felt sad about that, because I was like, I lost my friends in the divorce,
Aww. Well, I stayed with you.
I know. Well, yeah, but I knew you first,
Yeah.
I knew you.
Yeah, that's right. We knew each other before I knew. Well, I don't know if I'd met him before, but I didn't know him well. I didn't know. Yeah, I was your friend, so.
Yeah, and we double dated too, so that was fun. And
yeah.
His
That's
good
right.
friend Tommy, who's we talked about Tommy before, who's the guitar player for Kiss now, but that was fun. They used to take us to.
I think I liked more double dating than I liked actual relationship, because Tommy and I didn't really have chemistry, and I think he felt the same way. I think it was just more fun of us double dating together. And Tommy is a sweet, successful, cute, sexy guy,
and normal,
and maybe too normal for me. But yeah, we didn't really have a great love affair or anything, but I think it was just fun that we were double dating with you and Mark all the time.
Yeah, I know. I was rooting for you guys, because it was so fun to have like one of my best friends and with one of his best friends,
Yeah.
And,
those were fun times.
Tommy and Mark are a lot alike, because they're both really good musicians, but they're both really good business people, which is like a rare combination. And they both were not drug addicts or drinkers.
Normal, stable, the rare guys in the rock world, very rare.
From good families. I don't know Tommy's family, but I'm imagining that. Mark sure did. He came, like, I'm still friends with his mom. Unfortunately, his dad just passed away recently, but I'm still good friends with his mom. And she's always, I talked to her the other day, and she was like, that thing you gave to Stan, well, it's still on his desk, and I'm not giving that away.
She saved something you gave to her husband?
Yeah, like I gave him this boat thing, because he was really into sailing, and I gave him this little boat thing that you could hold pens in. And, and she said he always kept it on his desk, And she goes, I'm giving away a lot of things, but not that. And I just thought that was so sweet, And it's sad, when you break up with someone, because you're like, I'd like to keep the parents in the divorce. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get close with the family, and well, Mark, he was super successful, though. He wrote a book, right?
Yeah, gosh. What's the book called? How to Be a Rock. I think it was like How to Be a Rock Star 101. We should have him on as a guest one day. And
Yes.
I think he will definitely, Mark, he's gung-ho for anything to help us.
He's so sweet. I love Mark.
I
Yeah.
know. I know he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's still got a lot of energy. I talked to him on the, because he always had so much energy. Like,
Uh-huh.
he's like the male J-Lo, I'm getting my real estate license. I've got my publishing company.
Yeah, doing all these different things. He's super smart though, right? He's a smart
Really,
guy.
he's a smart, I mean, I knew that when I first met him too. I don't know if I ever told him this. So if he ever listens to this, he'll go, "Oh," but I knew right away when I first met him that he was really smart because he was talking about certain subjects that most people weren't talking about at the time, and then he was telling me how he got a scholarship into college, and he was a valedictorian. He was
Oh
a
wow.
salutatorian of his class, and he was like just below being valedictorian. He said, if I knew that I was that close, I would have worked a little harder.
You know what's funny? I never knew that about Mark, but I'm
Yeah.
not surprised at all because he seems like an overachiever, just someone that like
Well, I don't even
everything
think
he does, it's the best.
I think in that situation, yes, that's true. But in that situation, I don't think he actually tried that hard. I think he just naturally was smart. And he's from a small town in upstate New York, not taking away from that school, but it's a little bit smaller pool. And so he probably didn't have to work too hard to stay at the top,
Right.
And his parents, his dad was a counselor and his mom was an accountant, I
We
believe.
should probably mention who he is. It's Mark Ferrari, and
Mark
for anybody
Ferrari,
that's
who's been,
listening, instead of just talking about this guy.
Mark,
What band was he in? He was in a band.
a band called Keel that
Keel.
actually,
Ron Keel, right?
yeah, Ron Keel, but Gene Simmons, I believe, produced, if not all of their records, a couple of them. And so that's how he kind of got in. And I believe they opened for Bon Jovi. They did a lot
Oh.
of big tours. And then Mark did some other things after Keel, but then he got into publishing more. And that's where he really made his mark because he found a little niche for himself doing music for movies and television, which actually he used some of the songs that I sang on. And I got a couple of my friends some good little deals with him, and he placed their songs, and they made a lot of money off of it. Both of them,
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was like a win-win,
Uh-huh.
But he was from day one. When I met Mark, I just knew that guy was going places. I didn't know exactly where he'd been because we just met for the first time. I didn't know what his story was, but I knew if he hasn't been places already, he's going places.
Yeah, I just remember he had real long hair and he had that blonde streak, right? He was cute, very cute.
And real skinny.
Yeah, and real skinny, which rockers usually are. But I would never had I not gotten to know him, through you, I would never have known that he's so smart and talented in other ways too.
That's what really I think sealed the deal with me for like going on a, he asked me out on a date, and I remember thinking, well, he's not like the typical guy that I would go out with because he was such a rocker, and I did date musicians, don't get me wrong. It's just that he was very established looking with the hair, but when he opened his mouth and started talking, I was like, oh, this guy's pretty smart, and he seemed so level-headed. And that's the other thing about him. He took control of everything. Like he handled everything. And at that
Oh,
time,
I love that.
yeah. Like, of someone that takes, you don't even have to ask them and it's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that time, especially, I was like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
And he would always invite me to these really fun, super cool things. Him and I went to so many things. And it was funny because when we talked about Tommy was playing with Kiss, and he said, you want to go see Kiss at the Dodger Stadium? And so I said, sure. It was like on Halloween, and Tommy was waiting for us, and we got front row seats. It was so awesome,
Oh, wow. Wow.
So those two are a rarity, Tommy and Mark,
Are they still best friends? Do they still hang out?
So yeah, because they both live out in Agoura. So I think it's okay to say they live in Agoura, but they both live out there, and so they probably see each other once in a while.
Yeah.
So,
Aw, that's sweet.
It's I got to say it's Father's Day today, and
Yep.
I'm having a little Father's Day barbecue. So maybe we'll end up.
Yeah, let's wrap things up. And the moral of the story is don't judge women who are with very wealthy men because the attraction might be just that he's very talented, smart, charming.
That's true.
Takes care of her, makes her feel good for whatever reason. And then if it works for those two people, then, who's to judge? Who are we?
Yeah, you just made me think, because even just talking about Mark, like I was saying, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, but he turned out to be so charming, and, and that's happened to me a couple times. So it's like, when I was talking about, Harvey Weinstein's wife, it's like, he probably did the same thing to her, he probably swept her off her feet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you can't judge a guy just by the way he looks. Um, yeah, it's
yeah.
true.
So anyway, happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there.
Yes, happy Father's Day to my dad in heaven, and your dad's wherever heaven is or wherever they are. But yeah,
Well,
happy
hopefully,
Father's Day.
hopefully he's in a good place wherever he is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I will, I'll talk to you later.
All right, Kimber, take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.